What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Snapchat. We want to wish you guys a happy belated Father's Day. Alex and I were a day late because we both are fathers over here celebrating the weekend, and appreciate all you guys in the community post wishing us both a happy Father's Day. Alex over there with pretty much a full Snap deck of cards of a family. He's got a whole battalion over there. Buddy, how was Father's Day for you?
Oh, buddy, it was great. It was honestly fantastic. Anytime I get to spend a lot of time with not only my father, but with my kids and my family as well. Time you cherish, man. It's time you cherish. And the kids made me like all these cool crafts from school, and like they handed me, like, they actually took the time to like wrap up their gifts. So like my son, they got like a shoebox and put like pictures of me they drew and stuff like that. And some people think like, well, like, who cares about that? Man, I cared about that. Like, I loved it, seeing like an image that my son drew with crayon, that what he thought I looked like. And even though my hair was like orange or something, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool to see that. And I don't know, man. It's a blessing. We're truly blessed.
Dude, I for Father's Day, we went and did like a staycation, and I was with my dad and with my son. And when my son was napping, I got to do something so fun, man. I loved it. I was just laying out with my dad, and I was just asking him stuff about my childhood and about his childhood, and about like things that he enjoyed and memories and just stuff to like retain, we're only given how much time, some viewers may not even have their fathers with them, right? So it's like to just cherish that time. And I live such a busy and chaotic life, so to like slow things down, both with my family but also with my own pop, and just kind of hear his stories, his memories, like that was just so important to me. And I love that, buddy.
That sounds incredible. And you're right. Like, it's time flies so fast, and I think it's very important sometimes to take the chance to slow down and spend time with the people that matter the most to you and them.
And Alex and I were going to try to like jam in a Snapchat in between and get it out on Monday, but we like look back and we're like, no, we should just have some family time here and make sure we don't rush that. And so we appreciate you guys understanding. But been a busy week, man. Been doing casting for Ignite, for Rivals, Voices, Toast, but a lot of fun. Gotta say, out of everything I do, bro, YouTube videos, stream, everything, casting's probably the hardest thing that I do as a creator. It's so incredibly hard to keep track and keep things flowed and make it make sense. But man, I think it's the most fun. But I'm also just weird because I'm competitive and I like to do things very hard. Like, I love hard things, I guess.
Yeah, first of all, I've been watching your casts, and I'm not just saying this to you because obviously, you're my broski, but you're doing a phenomenal job. I've said this in the past. You have the perfect voice for hype, man. The games feel so much more fun listening to you cast them. I know it's a tremendous amount of work. You can't take a single moment off. Like, you got to be very fixated on what's happening, and you're working with people that, like, you're relatively new to that space. Rivals is new, and so you guys are getting a handle of, like, when to come in, when to come out, like, working off each other. And you guys, like, from the first cast were already fantastic. Bro. And because you've been working with similar people consistently, they're getting tighter, they're getting better. The cast themselves are getting remarkably better, and like, honestly, it's phenomenal to listen to. You guys are doing a great job. Dude, the whole cast is doing a great job.
I gotta tell you something. I appreciate that. So it's funny, there's been 4 casters. My caster has always rotated, so I've had a new one each time, and it's been kind of tough, right? Because you build chemistry. But I have to say, fully, bro, I was talking to Vicky Kitty, who I'm casting with, and I was talking with her, and she's like, hey, you seem really natural at this. And I said, you know what? I'm pretty sure it's from the podcast I've been doing for 2 years. Because me and you, this is a lot like casting. You give and take is what it's called. So when you're like delivering a line and then you take a line, I mean, you have such great chemistry of knowing when you're done talking, I'm done. That's what makes a good podcast, right? And you have to pick that up. And that's what's tough about making chemistry on air. Because some people like to dominate the mic. Some people, like, you think they're done, but they're taking a breath and they're going back in, right? And so, like, I owe a lot of it to you and to us and to this podcast, and just like getting that flow down, bud. And so it's something I think you're naturally good at too, because it's a muscle that you have to build of timing and of whatnot. So it's very interesting. It's like a dance.
It definitely is. It's like a skill that you build over time, but uniquely a skill that you build with the people that you're building it with. You know what I mean? Isn't that wild?
Yeah, dude, for sure, man. Well, we got a lot of wild things coming out today. Speaking of which, Nightmare, we got to recap a little bit of a season. We've got Cobra, who I believe was called a asshat. What'd you call him?
Dumbass.
Dumbass. Okay, yep, the dumbass card coming out. But he did get changed. Is he better? No, he's not. And Alex, what are we talking about on your side of the Snapchat? What's up, guys? It's editing cozy here. It's late. It's actually it's very late now. I am interrupting the podcast here. Hello, to talk about Kid Omega. You see, when we shot this episode, we did not know. We saw the number, but we didn't do the 2+2. It just came out. We're gonna have a special little section next episode for this. All right, so just take all that in right away. But it's clearly unacceptable. The fact that you have to you can't get the card without paying is hard to process. I'm gonna be honest. I just don't know what they were doing. It's almost. I assumed it was like an entry error, and they said I think that they want a multiple game. I don't listen. From executing it to communication to just having it priced where it's at itself in the game mode. It's just the biggest L possible. So we're going to talk about that next week. Just know that I had to make this. I don't want to wake anybody up. Okay, bye.
Cozy, on my side of the Snapchat, we're going to be discussing the new cards that came out last week in review to give you an idea of how they're performing, because we keep getting new cards coming out by surprise. And, well, Hellion and I can't even remember the card's name now. I'm scrolling to remember the card's name. And Mercury, that's right. How could I forget? Mercury did come out last week, and we're going to talk about those, as well as the Ancient One, the worst intro of all time here. And then we're going to talk about the high voltage favorites. We're going to be talking about high voltage. It just came out literally as we're recording here. Talk about some decks and talk about some general cards we like to play. And of course, the potential rewards that are available to you. And then as always, our Snapchat mailbag.
Well, buddy, we're going to hop right into it. Let's talk about Nightmare, the 3-cost -1 power card. On reveal, guys, replace the text of each card in your hand with text from a random card of the same cost. Alex, we know your thoughts a couple weeks back. A little nervous about the downsides. How have you settled into how this card is going to perform?
You know what? I came in on our last conversation at 2 stars. And you know what? I'm going to stick to my guns. I can see the upside potential, especially when you have a card that, we got the Ancient One, which was released at 3/5. And when you have a card at 3-1, clearly the effect is seen as incredibly powerful. And that's why Glenn would choose to go to the 3-1. But me moving up to a 3-star or whatever, I think is a bit of a cop-out. I think I want to stick to my 2 stars, stick with my instincts, stick with my gut instinct there, and we'll see where it goes. But I definitely see the upside potential here. I just see a whole lot of downside and potentially some tricky lines to make this card work consistently.
For sure. I think it's a tough one. I think when it was at, 2-3? Was what it was at before? Some ridiculous stat line.
Was it a 2-2?
It was a 2-2. Yeah, I think a 2-2. I mean, that was stupid, an easy 5. And at the time, funny enough, a lot of the gas behind the card was because of that line. It going to -1 kind of talks about what we thought about the Ancient One was something so where the stats were at. We know if it looks busted, it probably is not going to be consistent. That's what we've seen in this game, right? And with what they've done with Nightmare now, has me around 4. I think 5. I think I went to 4.5 on the initial review. I'm around that 4.5. I like that. I like the pop off potential with the card. I think I feel good about 4, but also I think on both of our ends, just nervous because this card could underperform heavy and overperform heavy. I think the -1 is just brutal. No matter, we don't ever see this card assigned to things. And when it has been, it's usually in a rough spot, right? Look at Celine a while back and just across the board outside of Mr. Negative in the hood. But it's a tough stat line to make up because you have to really make up that tempo and loss of power.
Yeah, you're taking a knee on turn 3, essentially, to gamble roll on making the cards in your hand better. And I know that there's this big conversation of well, Alex, you're running a Tuma, and you're running all these cards, Ebony Maw, and stuff you wouldn't generally play. And sure, I totally understand that. Changing Ebony Maw into even Iceman, right? Getting the Iceman fight, that's super cool. That's free real estate, essentially, right? But the big problem is if you don't draw Nightmare, then you got all these cards that are absolute dog water that don't even synergize properly. So when I've been trying to work on my deck designs, I'm like, okay, well, how can I make a deck that works with Nightmare and works without Nightmare? And naturally you go towards the Sauron synergy. And then it's like, well, would it be better just to play a Sauron deck? Because I see Nightmare as being analogous with something like Mr. Negative and the way that those decks are played, right? So I don't know, man. This is one of those ultimate, we just got to get our hands on it cards. But I think the deck building, might be trickier than people would expect.
I think it's going to be the Sauron play. And this is what I like about him. I think I agree with you in saying it's like Mr. Negative. But I think why I like him and some of the upside about him is that, and we're gonna have to see again how bad this feels, because there's gonna be times where you get like Sauron and him, and it's like it's just a weird play line. But my guess is, and what I feel like is, you're gonna have a deck that has a solid base, right? You've got the Sauron play that we know is a deck that can compete and do okay, and then you have this crazy upside and unpredictability nature of Nightmare as well. And so if you get like the Royal Flush, then you're able to, get your win cons and win. But what we need to see is, if you get one or the other there, right, with Sauron or Nightmare, does that deck have enough potential to compete? You know what I mean? Is it that reliant on this play? Because he's not going to be this plug and play card. He's going to be a very fun card, and I think he's going to work really well in Sauron and that deck build. And naturally, the power of those cards and the text of those cards is going to be what earns this guy the 4-star rating, if it's consistent enough. It's hard for me to believe this is going to be just a broken card that's going to just dominate every game because of that consistency, but it's kind of that fine line if it can stay competitive and be consistent enough to win with and without the perfect draw.
And even with the Sauron play, you're talking about a deck that wants to draw Sauron for 1, Nightmare for 3. And if you get that, of course, you have your snap condition. Like, I see that. However, if you don't draw Sauron, and then you're still top decking into random things, Nightmare only does the cards in your hand. And they tried to like cut out niches for Sauron and Nightmare to not step on each other's toes. They clearly had the two together when they designed this and when they made the changes. So obviously, like, Red Skull, very natural inclusion into a deck like this. Very natural inclusion into Sauron. Turns into an Iron Man, or turns into Namora even. Like, who cares what it turns into? Just getting rid of the text is the benefit, right? So like, that's cool. But like, other cards that people have been talking about, which could be good with Nightmare, is like, oh, Starbrand with Brood's text and stuff like that. But like, okay, that's also potentially really cool. But Starbrand can also turn into a Morphling, right? Or whatever. Like, you really don't know. Could also be Hope Summers, which is fine. Text in Marvel Snap is generally pretty positive. Like, cards are designed to do something that isn't, like, most cards don't have a design where it's like, oh, you play this card and your life sucks.
Yeah.
So text is generally positive. However, the random nature of it is exactly that. It's random. And in some cases, like, we get pleasantly surprised with things like Erisham, which you could say, well, the random cards, you don't know what you're going to get. Then you end up clapping cheeks with Erisham nonstop because it's just a good deck with, like, good upside. The +1 energy was good upside. Nightmare's upside is potentially fantastic too.
Yeah, so I think I totally get it, right? Because if anything, you would think I'd come super hesitant on this card because of Hulkling, but the way that I look at it was Hulkling being that turn 6 play, being that kind of like last hand. When you play it out, that's when you're banking a lot on him. And yes, you can find out what he is and you don't have to play him, but it's that 6-cost card. Like, it's kind of that, final piece that you want to play. With this, it's like, okay, if you transform your hand and you're looking at some of these effects, you're bound to get some super strong ones and you're bound to get some bad ones, right? Like, you could turn, this isn't going to happen, but you could turn the Ebony Maw it's definitely going to happen. You can turn the Ebony Maw in your hand into a Titania, and you're like, well, that's a problem. That's going to be kind of annoying, right? Like, that's going to happen, but I feel like the upside of some of this power on these cards, like Starbrand, like Red Skull going to a Black Panther and just getting a 30 laner is crazy. Like, that right there, and having the ability to play it or not play it, is what I have to see in its consistency of hand draw, right? So if you get Sauron on 1, great, you can play the Sauron deck. You've got that going for you. If you don't, okay, and you got Nightmare, okay, you stack up some cards in the hand. You don't play Ebony Maw on turn 1. You wait it out, and then you play out Nightmare, and then you got to really hope you can catch up, right, on 4, 5, 6. If your hand is cracked and you know it because you see the abilities, you snap right away, right? Boom, you have 4 games. You're going to leave, or you're going to win with what could be broken abilities. If you play those lines and it doesn't work out, you retreat. You get the cube out. No harm, no foul. It's just the consistency of these things, of your hand, of the play, and all this combined, I do know for sure it's going to be a damn good time, right? So where Snap is lacking some, a ton of fun lately, I think this is a great engine of fun that's going to come with it. That's going to have, like, that Mr. Negative feel of fun, but can win as well. But with Mr. Negative, you're all in on one game plan. This one has several game plans. That's why I think this thing is so special and such an interesting card.
You're right, because I guess you have the Sauron lines, you got the Nightmare lines as well. And it's worth noting that, like, it might actually shine, not just in ranked mode, but potentially in Conquest or in tournament formats, because in those types of formats, like, Conquest style, like, 10 cube, winner takes all type stuff, Airstream decks tend to do very well because your opponent really cannot consistently respond to what you're playing down. They can, of course, but like there's an element of
Yeah.
surprise and an element of like the reason why when even Conquest was first announced, I remember you talking about Coulson, how excited you were for Coulson, because your opponent can't predict what you're going to pull. They can't account for what Coulson's going to provide, just like they can't account for what Nightmare is going to
Even
provide.
Pixie. We saw
And
that
so
with
you might
Pixie
be
a
able to
bit
get some-
too.
Yeah, Pixie's huge. Yeah, Pixie's pretty cool too. And I've actually been playing some Pixie. I still think it needs to be a 1 cost to be truly meta relevant, but Pixie's hilariously fun. And it naturally goes together with Mobius and Mobius, which is pretty good right now.
For sure. So I think that this, in the right hands, and especially people who know what they're doing and they can find the upside with this card, that is where I think it's going to do well enough. You're going to have those games where it doesn't feel good. You're going to have games where you have your Ebony Maw go to a Hood and you've got the Demon back. You're going to have ways to cycle this guy out. Merlin being an incredible new card with skill that can, make the best of cards that are out on the field that already did their thing, right? He's an on reveal. He doesn't have to stay on the field. So once he's done his thing, maybe you can cycle this card out and do something. You know what I mean? So you've got like other vehicles to make this -1 into something a bit better as well. You can get, Red Skull going to Claw. You can get your Typhoid Mary turning into like Galacta. Like there's just so many cool play lines that when you look at turn 4, 5, and 6, where you're going to have to win, you're down -1 power, massive tempo, not just down 1 power. You're down, let's face it, an average of 4 to 7 power, if not more, and or setup, right? How much does he help as that setup card? And I feel like we saw Sauron in the past have that play sometimes of Lizard, Ebony, all at the end. You know what I mean? Like you don't play him early anyway. You just boom, boom, boom. You slap some of these things down. It's like with this now, it's like, okay, if your Ebony Maw is an Ant-Man and your Lizard is whatever, right? You get the picture. I feel like there's enough chance of these hits to really hit, and the upside has a lot of it as well. And so you're definitely going to have stuff not work out, but the consistency and the snap potential is what I like to see.
Oh, there's definitely cube equity here. Like there's definitely snap potential because there's no way your opponents be able to read as to like what you're able to kind of throw down on the table. And I was thinking about it too. It's like, so Mr. Negative, its lines, we're comparing it to Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative lines are very obvious. It's Psylocke or Ravonna turn 2, Snap Negative turn 3. Then you know what's coming to you. You know, you got the Iron Man Mystique flips and all that kind of stuff. With Nightmare, they snap and like, okay, they're probably holding Sauron. They're probably holding Red Skull. But you can't account for Red Skull being a Spider-Woman and debuffing your lane while, Starbrand becomes Diamondback, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't account for those types of things that will happen. And Marvel Snap's a crazy game. You're thinking, Alex, that's probably one of the craziest lines you could have possibly come up with, but it is technically possible. You know what I mean?
It's
and you
very
can't
much
account for it.
possible. Like Starbrand can go into what you said, a Brood. It can go into a Sage and just like infinitely scale too. It's the big hitters that you're like, this thing has solo lane winners across the board because it's manipulating that power. And that, I think that's what's scary. Whereas Mr. Negative, it was almost always that same thing. You know what you're looking for, and it's very cut and dry. And I think you can even have we've seen this over time. Like Snap is on a bluff game, right? So like, sure, could this be a bluff deck? Kind of like if you get a bad line, it's gonna always give your opponent a little bit of hesitancy though. Like if they see this guy played out and you snap right away, you're immediately gonna give your opponent that like, oh no, did they get, like, I can't beat a Red Skull Iron Man. Did they get it? Did they get that? Did they get the Namora play? I think that's really cool potential to have under his belt as well.
Yeah, and if anybody's a mathematician out there, I'd like to know the math behind having a 12-card deck. And then what are the chances you are able to draw Sauron on 1 and play Nightmare on 3? You know what I mean? What is the percentage likelihood that happens frequently with these two cards? So that's kind of like your ideal scenario because the cards in your hand have been dealt with, the cards in your deck have been dealt with. Because most often what you're going to have is games where you draw Nightmare on turn 4 or 5 and you don't play him down. And you played Sauron early, so you're trying to mitigate the downside. Oh, you drew into the Red Skull, but Starbrand is going to provide that -3. You're often not going to be getting both the effects in tandem together. You're probably going to have to, and I think this was by design, you were always going to have to try to like work around, well, my Red Skull didn't actually get hit by Nightmare or Sauron, but I have Enchantress, which I'll play in that lane, and maybe I'll take out that Cerebro, right? I think there's going to be a lot more like macro consideration playing this deck that might be inherently obvious, but the potential upside with these cards is pretty huge.
Yeah, and we have seen the Sauron deck do well, right? We've seen that deck already do well. My guess is you slot in a couple other cheaper options, just a couple other, or you just have, consistently you have the Ebony and the Lizard in there, let's say, and probably not, but even let's say Martyr. I don't know. All right, you have a couple of the lower options to where if you do have to play him on 4 or what have it, then you still have some boom and bust stuff going on, right? You still have some. It's going to be a great game of patience is what it's going to be. And you don't need the Sauron line all the time, but it's trusting, the play that you do get from these cards. But I agree, it is going to be super interesting to see when those two pop off together, how good that is. And then, again, like I said, the consistency when they don't. Because we've started to see that last card fill, the Surtur, we've seen even Zabu into that space. It's like, all right, well, if you pull those out and you put Nightmare in, right, how consistent is that deck? Because we already know the Sauron deck is good, a good deck. And so how much better can it possibly get?
And that's actually a great point, right? You're talking about a card going into a shell that's already an established winner.
Yes.
It's not the same situation that like Kahori was in, where Kahori was trying to help a deck archetype, like a hand generation archetype, which didn't perform particularly well and needed the help. And so this year, it's interesting because it's going to be tricky to evaluate within the first week or two. Because will it send those Sauron shells to the next level? Mm-hmm. Or will it get carried by the success of what already is a fantastic shell? You know what I mean?
100%. And in my opinion, the Sauron shell, one of the weaknesses of it when playing it is it's pretty predictable. All right, you play the Sauron, you kind of know the big hitters coming. Right, that's going to be, start every now and then you get the Enchantress play to counteract. Like you got some things in there to kind of make things a little bit different, but this is causing it to be unpredictable. And outside of it hitting bad cards, you at the very minimum, I think, have a very high likelihood to hit neutral cards. Right, so Starbrand, yeah, maybe he's not going to hit the Brood or the Ironheart. Maybe he hits a Rhino, and at the end of the day, you're still getting a 3/10 that is going to put a rock, whatever, right? So you still have the chance not even to have the upside, but the neutral side. And I see the difference of this with Hulkling being that it's just less risky. And even if, by the way, I just want to say on Hulkling's being played at top tier tournament play now. Like that unpredictableness is being played too. So that's also, working out well. The only thing I see is there's not a great 6 for this, right? Like there's not really a good 6. Obviously you have cards that you can use at 6 cost, but I'm curious if those make it into these decks because those aren't in the Sauron decks at all right now.
And that's the question, right? Like, do you include something like a Giganto or a Destroyer or an Infinite? But like, if you don't draw Nightmare, those cards, like, they're useless unless you run like a Cosmo to then play the the Destroyer on top of and stuff like that. Like there's ways. Like there used to be a time where Sauron decks ran Cosmo, a lot of cards over 10 power, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe you make that work again. Maybe you have a Cosmo in there to protect those cards, but also give your Destroyer an out. But something like Giganto got buffed. Okay, maybe you just play it left and you kind of keep that in your head. But Infinite, I don't think ever makes it.
My guess is that leans. Remember, each time a card comes out, there's decks that lean into fun and there's decks that lean into competitiveness. And I think the more you do that stuff, the more fun it gets, but the less competitive it gets, right? Like I think this Sauron base shell taking out, Surge or whoever, right? Ares. If you don't have some of these new cards, even you can take those out, put new ones in, and then you put in Nightmare in that spot instead, and that to me is the more competitive but it's gonna be tempting not to play the Infinite, not to play the Giganto, or even taking it back to the glory days of having 0 in there as a consistent play and then putting Destroyer in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the day that someone plays Nightmare on 3 and then on 5 plays a Red Skull that's a Nihilist and kicks the Nightmare over to the other side.
Well, dude, I have the confidence. I think this thing is gonna be pretty good. And again, it could just not bode well, right? Like Surge ended up being a good card. It was a new mechanic. It had a chance not to be. That was some of the skepticism about the card at first because it's new. It's so different in what it brings, and we like to be somewhat careful. But I'm riding it. Either way, I'm going down in flames of fun, man. I'm going to have fun with this card, and it's going to be a blast. And then if it gets to win along the way, like, hell yeah, it's the best of both.
For what it's worth, I want this card to be awesome because it's actually a really cool effect. It's a draft friendly effect as well, which is kind of cool. Just throwing that out there. We haven't talked about draft in a while. So yeah, but like, yeah, I want this card to be a winner. I really do. And when I stick at 2 stars, you know, I want to be wrong.
And listen, guys, Alex and me, we already apologized in advance. You got that star brand. You see Alex play on Twitch. He plays out star brand. Boom. You've got Ironheart hitting other cards. Man, Alex, you go and play. Boom. Your star brand's a Green Goblin. Rip. Like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna. This guy, like, that's the stuff that's gonna happen. But sometimes, like, you know, you win some, you lose some. But if you look at all the cards, you know, when we were looking at 6 costs for Hulkling, I think there was definitely some ones that didn't hit. You look across the board, there's way more that hit than don't in their class and or again neutral. Great. I think the Green Goblins, the heck, I even think something like Gladiator for Star Brand's cool. You have a 10-pound. Like, there's things that work. It's just like you're not getting like the super benefit of it. But Star Brand's such a card with such a con that it's like anything else is a W pretty much under his name, right? Like if Star Brand's text was on other cards, that's the text you're trying to avoid, right? And you're getting rid of that at least. At least you're getting rid of that text, right? So like you've got that going for it, but it is a little awkward. And I think my biggest concern to wrap things up on this is that Nightmare is that 3-cost slot. We saw what Sauron was whenever Star Brand came out together in the 3, and it was miserable. Star Brand, it just didn't work. Remember, there's that competitive gap, and that flow of turns did not work. So we're gonna see if that's something that we run into.
And being a 3 cost, it's really awkward because if it was a 4 cost, you know, you got the Ravona, you got the Zabu, you got options, right? Psylocke, Jennifer Kale, technically.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but anyways, kind of, yeah. But anyways, you know what I mean, right? Like, you would have had options to like do stuff with. At 3, it's just like, I don't know.
Oh,
like,
100%. If this was like a 4-1 or 4-2, you're like, you know, you don't have the downside anymore, but the cost is up. It's like, okay, that's interesting, because then I have to find a way to cheat this out. Then I can kind of get the, you know, get it flowing. But then also it changes the deck, and you're like, you have to add those pieces, and then it makes consistency go down, right? Zabu's already played in that deck, so maybe it would have been fine anyway. But ultimately, we're gonna have to see. I'm Team Nightmare. I'm excited. I think either way, well, definitely either way, one of us is gonna be wrong. It'll be fun to go back and look at it. But again, I think we're both correct. This will be a fun time. Next up, Alex, is Kid Omega. Now, Kid Omega now a 2/1. Activate, destroy the next card you play this turn to gain its power. Now, we've seen this thing get adjusted, and anytime we see that, we know it's going to perform at a high level. Me and you, I believe, put Kid Omega at like our 2nd best card of the month, or like 2nd or 3rd. We both love the effect. We think this is going to be a great card. It's one that you can get from High Voltage, which is another W. Alex, Kid Omega, I'm heating up on this card more and more as we get closer to release.
Yeah, for me, this is a 4.5 star card. I mean, I came in at 4.5 when it was data mined at 2.22. It's at 2.1 now. So, like, it comes down a little bit. Obviously, though, pre-nerf, must be a good card. So maybe I'm going to stay at 4.5. I just see a lot of opportunities here. I don't want to drop down through all, like, the synergies right off the rip, but it's going to be a very good niche card is what I would expect.
Yeah, I think that's a good... niche, yeah, but like obviously like niche and destroy though. Like, is Carnage niche? Like, yeah, you know, kind of like I feel like Kid Omega is gonna allow for some really fun synergy we haven't seen, like doing stuff with Elixir and Nimrod. Obviously, that's such a fun play into, you know, this card. So you're taking what was a con of destroying something, and then you're like adding its power, regenerating it, making it come back up again because Elixir, whatever, right? Like, you have so many things going for it. Love it at the 2-cost slot. You know, a ton there. Very strong at that. A lot of cool play you can do. And again, you're taking something. You're just taking something that the deck wants to do anyway, and now you're turning it into more power, which is huge.
No, it is. And like the fact that it's like absorbing the power and it's a relatively inexpensive activate, I think is super helpful. If this was an on reveal somehow, I think it would have been much more tricky because you're obviously trying to, like, you'd have to stack your play in a way. It'd have to be a combo piece at a 1 cost. But this being a 2-cost activate, you get it on the field of play, you do some stuff, and then when you got that Nimrod ready, right? When you got the Nimrod ready, and you could even do something like Kid Omega, then you play down a Shuri, right? And then you activate Kid Omega and you play the Nimrod. Actually, I wonder how the turnover would work. Nimrod goes down, gets buffed by Shuri, then destroys.
So if you play Shuri, let's say, and you already have Kid Omega there, yeah, no, it would do that because it's all play order.
Shuri's
It's just
effect
play
is
order.
active.
Yeah, it's play order. Yeah, 100%. So like
Yeah.
the
Shuri's
Nimrod would
effect
go
would be
down.
active, then you activate the activate.
Yeah, you just have to
and
play
then
him
the card
first, then you
comes.
click. Exactly. So, and that's what's super cool. Like, we've seen this happen, guys. We saw this happen with Hellcow. That's why they're being very conservative on the power right off the rip, too. Like, Hellcow, they gave it way too much power to compensate. And then, they realized, okay, the two archetypes that benefit massively from being able to control when you do this effect is Destroy and Discard. We're seeing that now with Destroy. And that's where I think it's like, you just have really cool things that can happen here. And we don't get a lot of Destroy cards for one, right? But for two, man, I'm just excited too to have fun with this thing. Like Deadpool, man. Oh, I'm so excited to mess around with Deadpool. Like, it's so crazy the idea of having like, just getting a this one cost card that already is getting good value. I'm not even talking about like 64 power Deadpool. More like just like having the 1/8 or whatever, right? Giving it to Kid Omega, getting it back to your hand, and just having that be such a smooth thing that you can do late or you can do early to keep the momentum of Deadpool going. Like that, I haven't gotten to play Deadpool in a while, and I'm excited for that.
There's also the other side to this that I was thinking about was like there's been times where like you're trying to do stuff with like Death, Null, and like Deadpool, for instance. And on turn 5, maybe you do something like, oh, you play something, you destroy it, but maybe you throw an X23, maybe you top deck X23, you throw it into the Kid Omega to get that extra energy for turn 6. A very niche circumstance you'd never do this, because generally speaking, like assuming you're able to destroy the Deadpool anyways, right? You could try something like that, and then like now you have the 7 energy that you're looking for. Or conversely, no, that line sucked. You would always, I was just thinking about it, because this gains its power, you would always want the Deadpool power being applied to Kid Omega.
Yeah.
So it's funny, although you do have technically options, the fact that it's kind of like taking that power is pretty awesome. And I shouldn't say taking, it's not stealing anything. It's just taking the power of the destroyed asset and applying it to Kid Omega.
Well, and it's changing like what has been the main like recipe, right? It's like, okay, if you go the death route and null, it's like, okay, get death cost down, you get a little bit of 12 power on the board, get null power up, awesome. But you've always been there just to get null a lot of the times, and that's such a big card to wait on, and maybe you don't get them. Now it's like you get to add that to Kid Omega, and then you're fueling these 4 other things too, right? It's the same as discard. It's the exact same thing we saw with Hellcow. It's like, whether it was, I mean, we mainly saw that with Hella, but it's like, okay, the APOC is triggering up. You're getting Morbius to go up as well in a lane, and then you have the card, whatever, right? With this, it's the same thing. It's like Death goes down, Null goes up, Kid Omega goes up, Deadpool goes up. It's like, bro, you have all these things going. That's why this is such a home run hit, and I think Destroy players are some of the most loyal to their archetype. They've needed something fun and consistent and good, and I'm excited that this card's coming to do that.
I have something I'd like to throw out there. Tell me if it's crazy. I might try this. I don't know if it's going to be good. Turn 2, Kid Omega. Turn 3, Sabretooth. Turn 4, Moon Girl. Are we back?
Are we back? No. I think that you could do that line. You could do that line, but I think overall we're gonna see this be. You know what? I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah, Sabretooth's back. Just rip it. And ship
Sabretooth
it.
is back. You heard it from Cozy Snap first.
He's back. Rip it and ship it. No, but I do think what's cool about this too is like you have Nico that can still do the destroy the next play if you get like that lined up right. Kid Omega playing on 2 is obviously the dream, especially because 2 is usually like a setup phase. So like it's really nice to have him on curve. Love the cost here. If you get him later, obviously it's way worse. But at that point, destroys worked like that before, where it's like if you don't get the right thing, like you lose. So like it's just that's what's gonna happen with it. But maybe you still get Carnage and Venom and Deadpool, and you can try to win that way, maybe potentially. But overall, dude, I just think that this card is exactly what Destroy players have been looking for, what I've been waiting for. And you could also just like, do something as simple as like, I don't have anything great, but I have an X23 that I can go ahead and blow up, get a quick 2, get a ramp up in energy, and go from there.
That's kind of what I was mentioning before, but like if you have Deadpool, that the power transition is just so huge, right? It's just so huge. Like, yeah, of course you can throw Wolverine into it if you want to get its proc moving, right? I mean, in theory, if you destroy a pretty big Deadpool and then you have like, so Kid Omega, you play the big Deadpool in, it gets destroyed. You play Deadpool again and you Venom on top of Kid Omega and Deadpool. Venom absorbs both Kid Omega and Deadpool's power. Kind of cool.
Yeah, and honestly, too, we talk about it, and this is where you try to get a little bit messy, but even Firehair, yeah, getting both Fire Hair and Kid Omega down and like getting something reliable going off is tough. But I love the idea of like Kid Omega being that kind of like last sauce in the pan that you could just activate, destroy any on reveal card, and then benefit off that off the Fire Hair. That's kind of cool.
That's true. Also, in theory, I wonder if this could work in Phoenix Force. Like, could you get rid of something like a Deathlock? Because you have destroy options in Phoenix Force, but you play the Kid Omega down, and then you're able to reliably destroy something like that Multiple Man or the Human Torch or whatever. I think it
will. It's just how is it better than what we have, right? Like it's definitely gonna work. Is it better than what we have with it? But yeah, man, sign me up. I think, oh, dude, this week's just so cool between Nightmare and Kid Omega, those two alone. And you know what? If those cards weren't enough, Alex, you got just all that heat coming right at you. And then you have this gorgeous SOB staring you right in the eyes, a 2/3. Now, somehow, guys, they made this worse. I don't know how, Alex, because it was what? Created cards switch sides last time. Now it's
something like that.
Activated, and you're going to destroy an enemy created card at the location that he's played on. Oh, God, he's so bad. It's like the commitment to how bad he is, I respect.
Yeah, I don't think Cobra's going to be particularly good, Cozy. Ironically, he's going to be the best in the new high voltage mode because the cards that are kind of generated from the unstable reactor or whatever it is in the middle, they're going to be created cards. So Cobra's going to be able to destroy those cards, which is kind of cool. So literally in high voltage this week, Cobra will feel valuable. And then probably not valuable at any point in time after.
I would rather this card say, if you don't draw this card, everything on the board gets +1. Like, something like you're actively trying not to draw this POS.
It sucks. It sucks really bad. Because, like you mentioned before, you play this down, then they just don't play created cards there.
It's the activate thing. If it was on reveal, which Alex and I even double check, we're like, wait, is this on reveal? Because it makes at least there's more to be done. Like, you know what I mean? And I just don't understand why they give him a good upside, because it's such a niche effect. Like, we've seen 3/5s go out, that, even Ancient One, let's say, right? But it's like, I just don't understand this card. I don't know why this guy made it to his final verdict. And you know what? There's gonna be a clip out there where you're killing an Infinite with this guy, okay? But Brave Soldier's putting that in your deck.
I can foresee this card somehow outperforming Nightmare and blowing us all away.
Bro, if that happens, I gotta just delete the Snapchat.
There's almost no chance that happens. Oh man, it's funny because like this is one of those things where it's like it's so niche that it's like, why? Like, it's too far niche, and it has like a lot of niche cards are like, okay, well, I can still do this with it. Like, you may think, oh, Alex, Mobius and Mobius, you use that to disrupt your opponent's energy, but yeah, like it's seeing play right now with with Pixie to prevent you from increasing the cost of your card. There's an offensive side and a defensive side.
It's
right?
just a problem we don't
Cobra
have.
Doesn't have that.
It's just a problem we don't have, right? So it's like, yes, can you say something that could happen here? Sure, but it's like to put this in one of your 12. It's, you know what it is? It's kind of like, let's say like Howard the Duck, where it's like when it first came out, we were like, oh, cool, and then we were playing and we're like, there's just not a reason to put him in the 12. You know what I mean? Most of the time, unless you're Alex Kocha, like, and looking to have some fun. Question: Luna Snow, the icicles, are they created technically?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe you could play that on curve.
I guess. So what, you play Cobra and then you play Luna Snow and then you activate Cobra on the same turn?
That's not the worst.
It's not the worst.
Perfect.
I love
perfect
Luna
draw.
Snow too. She's a 3/6.
Perfect draw line. And so you try to ramp with Luna Snow and your next pull is not a 5/6 cost. It's Cobra.
Yeah. And then you destroy the Ice Cube or whatever, and they play a created like Infinite, and you just cry.
Oh yeah,
it's just sitting there.
More so.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, not a lot to say about Cobra. Do we even waste time on this guy?
I don't think so. I think that he's just too highly situational, and he's going to be best literally the week that you unlock him because it's high voltage, overcharged, whatever. And outside of that, meh.
Well, lastly, buddy, we've got a little small season overview. We talked about these before, so we're not going to go through all of them again. Shout out to Zero Skills Samus, though, for this sick graphic put together here of the first steps. We got to see a lot of the art come in. It's looking good, looking strong. They have a lot of art actually pumped out for this season, Alex. The more I look into it, though, man, the more I think that this season pass card is still, I give it a 5. I remember right off the rip. I think this is one of the most insane cards, and if it comes out as this, again, if you don't know, it's the new Mr. Fantastic. At the end of the turn, he's going to give a card in your hand -1 cost or +2 power at the end of the turn, every turn. and is a 2-cost card. So absolutely insane. And then looking at some of these that are going to be coming into the Series 5, dude, this season looks just a gas.
It does look awesome. Really cool designs, potentially really impactful. I want to second the shout out to Zero Skill Samus. I believe they've made a lot of really awesome graphics for the Snap community, so it's great to see them continuing their fantastic work. Yeah, but like honestly, this next season is looking legitimately exciting, and we do our complete breakdown. I'm excited to hear the star ratings and stuff like that, because I think this is going to be a relatively high starred month.
Yeah, because we did like a couple, I think like it was about a month ago, we looked at these for the first time. They had Mad Thinker, though, now at a 1/1 at the start of each turn after drawing +2 power if your hand is full. And so this is going to be a Series 4 card. We looked at that a little bit. So you're getting a 1/3 if the hand's full. One. I mean, it definitely has a cap because how many times does that happen? But it's kind of cool that that's a mechanic to try to force now outside of, obviously like Devil Dinosaur and stuff going up in power, but forcing that into for the 1 cost.
Yeah, I think it's a neat design. I don't know how good it is. I still have to give some time to like think about it and everything like that. Fascinating design. Hard though. Even if you play him on turn 1, you gotta start pumping your hand fast, right? So it's like it's a hard condition to meet, but an interesting design nonetheless.
Yeah, and we get scalers, often, but I think it's always fun to get one cost scaling cards. But dude, the one that's not on here that I want to bring up is Galactus First Steps. So this says, my Herald is the next character I see you play. All right. So this is assuming, in your hand. It doesn't look like it's going to be out there. End of turn, +3 power if you're winning my Herald's location, if in the hand or in play.
Really cool. Really cool. Not sure what to make of it yet.
Yeah.
But like legitimately a really cool card. I think that they're actually even this month here, the cards are really well designed. Like they're really cool, fascinating cards. And even if something like Morgan Le Fay, your waifu under your chin there, like it's a really cool design. Even if like she hasn't been slapping the meta like some might have hoped, really cool design. And I'm really excited for that kind of stuff. I think that Glenn and the Balance team, they're coming up with some really neat ideas, and I'm glad they're being implemented in fun ways.
Yeah, and I think what's cool is some characters have so many facets about them, right? So like the one we have is World Eater Galactus, right? The one we have currently. But also he's very well known for his heralds and going out there and like scouting planets beforehand and stuff, right? Or not even pretty much announcing their doom. And I think that's so cool that you've got that now with this Galactus card. We don't know stats, anything, so like we don't know if he's going to be worth playing at all, but even him in the hand, giving a constant +3, like that's such a cool interaction that we haven't seen before.
No, I know. And like we even have like Lifebringer Galactus, which I think is a really popular variant, the one where he's like doing the big boot and he's all golden. And I don't know the lore 100%, but I don't think he's necessarily a bad guy as Lifebringer Galactus. So it's kind of cool to be kind of leaning into like the different variations of the characters. Like, is it possible that one day we see like leader of the X-Men Magneto? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could be interesting.
Well, dude, listen to some of these other cards that we got, man. We've got Firelord, who's a 4/6. Okay, on reveal, revive one of your discarded or destroyed 3-cost cards here. 4/6. So you've got now. I'm a sucker for cost synergy cards. I just think they're super fun and they retain high play value, like we saw with Surfer. This is interesting, man. As a 4/6.
It is pretty cool. It's cool. I wonder about the powers. 4/6 enough though. Like it is doing a really cool thing, but 4/6. It's so funny. 4/6 used to be like good stats. You remember when 4/6 was good?
Yeah, and like 4/10 had to have like the biggest downsides ever. It was the Typhoid for the entire board, or crazy things like that.
Dude, Crossbones was a 4/8, wasn't he? 4/8 for the longest time.
4/8, dude, and you had to be winning that location. Yeah, just nuts, bro. And we're going to be doing a more dedicated one. These are more quick beats, but Frankie Ray, 3/4, okay? After the next time you play a 6-cost card, double this card's power. So I think this was a cool little play on ramp. It's a 3/4, goes to 3/8 if you're playing a 6. That's already tremendous stat line, like my goodness. And then if you're able to ramp, you have now a 16. That's crazy.
Yeah, Jennifer Kale might be feasting on that one. That's a pretty good Jennifer Kale card, maybe, because you get to play the 2 in tandem, then activate Jennifer Kale, and then be able to sneak out some 6 drops faster.
And a cool way to play ramp that isn't just like getting the 6 costs out there, like it's having synergy built into it, And yeah, I agree, man. That makes Jennifer Kale make way more sense as the 2 now, Like
Yeah,
ton
and
more.
this always happens, right? Like there's cards that might underperform, like Jennifer Kale. Like I'm not trying to spoil like our season end review or anything, which I can't believe we're flowing through this season quite fast. Time's flying when you're casting nonstop, Cozy. But I'll tell you that the Jennifer Kale, like sometimes we need a little bit more perspective on cards. Jennifer Kale came out and like, yeah, it's a little lackluster. Then you get a little bit of added synergy, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait, hold on. Now we're starting to cook. Just like Elixir was awful, awful, awful. And now this week with Kid Omega being potentially available to you, well, things looking a little different for Elixir, isn't it?
Absolutely, dude. Listen, there's some fun stuff coming out. I don't know. It looks like this is going to be over the span of a bunch of seasons because we have all these right here. There's Silver Surfer first steps, end of turn. If you're winning this location with an on reveal card, copy its text. What about that one? No, we don't have cost and power for these. Are really early builds, but I thought these were really cool to talk about.
I was waiting for you to say the cost and power there.
Do you think it's 3 just because they're going to stick with the Surfer theme?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Maybe they drift off of it. Like, do you really want a deck with multiple Silver Surfer variations?
Yeah, and regardless, though, the one thing we are seeing is the end of turn. They're pumping that text, and if you see Invisible Woman, as we talked about before, activate this turn. This turn, your end of turn abilities happen twice. And one thing I like to say, Alex, is I like that she comes at the end of the month because it allows us to kind of like, well, it allows them to see how busted or not busted, I guess, Reed Richards is. But then on top of that, like some of these other archetypes to form and synergies to happen. And then the month ends with her as that kind of final, cap.
Yeah. The order at which they release cards is always something I think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like they have to be pretty intentional with it. And sometimes they don't get it right. And we've seen it before where like they release a super overpowered card and then like the tech answer is like 4 weeks later. Like the season pass card. What was the last example of that? Was it Loki and Morbius? I'm trying to remember. You're better at this stuff. Mobius came out in which season? Which he was the direct counter.
I do know that Scream. There was Madam Web and then Scream months later too. There's that one. I remember like Madam Web came out and then Scream came out. Yeah. This one though, it's like you can view it as like, okay, they want the meta to settle and then she comes out, or you can view it as Invisible Woman is going to be an imperative meta shifting card. Last card to come out, clogged up packs. Well, actually, yeah, because if you skip the weeks before, you have less. You know what I mean?
You're thinking money, man.
Both ways.
Get those packs gambling.
Yeah, right, dude. But yeah, man, can't wait to dive into the season. It was fun to do a quick little overview on a somewhat quicker episode of the Snapchat guys. But either way, we got a lot to break down over on Alex's side, guys. We wish you a happy Tuesday. Obviously, a little late, but hey, it's a killer day. We go right into Nightmare, into Kid Omega. We got this coming out early in the morning, and that's going to all hit you guys in just a couple of hours. You guys can check out the new cards in review, High Voltage, that's coming, and you got to continue to, in the favorites that we've got for that in the Marvel, I love how it still says Marvel Snapchat, the Snapchat mailbag. You guys have a good one. Have a great one. To the next one. Happy snapping.